Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Deja B. I want to say thank you to my subscribers, and those that have been watching. Today I will be sharing the top 5 haunted dark history stories part 4. Like always, I will post new content 1 to 2 times a week. So, if you're a fan of creepy, scary and history stories, I believe I have it here. With all that said, sit back, relax, and stay away from those dark corners. Thank you.
This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Number 5.
In the year 1494, a shadow draped itself over the picturesque villages and tranquil landscapes of medieval Europe. As autumn leaves carpeted the ground, an ominous and inexplicable malady began to afflict the unsuspecting populace, heralding an event that would be whispered about in dread for generations to come. In the heart of a small village, nestled at the edge of a dense forest, the first signs of the peculiar ailment manifested. It began innocently enough, with reports of a mysterious fever spreading among the villagers. However, as the affliction progressed, it unveiled its sinister nature. Those who fell ill exhibited an eerie pallor, and their once lively eyes became vacant orbs, devoid of the spark of life. As the contagion spread, so did the chilling realization that the deceased were refusing to rest in peace. Graveyards, once silent sanctuaries, became stages for a nightmarish spectacle. Under the silvery glow of the moon, the dead emerged from their final resting places, their hollow eyes reflecting an insatiable hunger that defied the laws of nature. The afflicted, now resembling the living dead, shuffled through the narrow cobblestone streets, their moans echoing through the night. The villagers, gripped by terror and superstition, could scarcely comprehend the horror that unfolded before their eyes. It was as if the boundary between life and death had been rent asunder, and the once vibrant community found itself ensnared in a nightmarish limbo. The village priest, a figure of unwavering faith, stood before the unfolding horror with trepidation. The scriptures offered no guidance for such a malevolent manifestation. As the undead roamed the streets, the priest sought solace within the dimly lit confines of the village chapel, clutching his rosary and murmuring desperate prayers. Night after night, the spectral figures wandered aimlessly, driven by an otherworldly force. Attempts to ward them off proved futile, as the living found themselves helpless against the haunting march of the undead. Homes were fortified, doors bolted, yet the relentless march continued, and the air itself seemed to carry a chilling aura, as if the village were trapped in a perpetual twilight between life and death. In a desperate bid for survival, the remaining villagers congregated within the chapel, their collective prayers a feeble shield against the encroaching darkness. Outside, the haunting moans grew louder, accompanied by the shuffling footsteps of the living dead. With the first light of dawn, an eerie stillness settled over the village. The risen dead, as if compelled by an unseen force, retreated to their graves, leaving the village in an unsettling silence. The once thriving hamlet now lay in ruins, its streets strewn with the remnants of the nightmarish ordeal. As the survivors cautiously emerged from their sanctuary, they found themselves in a village scarred by a supernatural encounter. The undead had vanished, leaving behind only the haunting memories of the closest thing to a real-life zombie outbreak that medieval Europe had ever witnessed. The events of 1494 became a whispered legend, passed down through generations as a cautionary tale. The village, forever marked by the spectral visitation, stood as a testament to the haunting nature of history, where the boundaries between life and death could blur, and the specter of the undead walked among the living.
Number 4.
In the aftermath of the Battle of Waterloo, where the fates of nations clashed on the blood-soaked fields, a peculiar trade emerged that wove together the threads of history, war, and an unusual form of dentistry. It was a time when victory and defeat reverberated through the air, leaving behind more than just the echoes of cannon fire and the cries of fallen soldiers. This is the story of the Waterl Teeth. Amidst the chaos of the battlefield's aftermath, where the wounded and deceased lay side by side, a man named Reginald Ashburnham found himself drawn to the macabre remnants of war. Reginald, a skilled surgeon and amateur antiquarian, saw potential in the discarded teeth of the fallen soldiers. Little did he know that his quest to collect these dental artifacts would become a peculiar chapter in the annals of history. Reginald wandered through the makeshift infirmaries, where the wounded sought solace, and the fields, where the fallen rested in silent repose. In the eerie quiet that followed the thunderous clash of armies, he meticulously gathered teeth from the mouths of the deceased soldiers who had fought bravely on both sides of the conflict. As he amassed a collection of these morbid mementos, an idea began to take shape in Reginald's mind. The dental profession of the time faced challenges in procuring suitable materials for dentures, and the teeth harvested from the battlefield presented an unusual solution. Reginald envisioned transforming the remnants of war into functional replacements for those who had lost their natural teeth. Back in London, Reginald set up a clandestine workshop where he meticulously crafted dentures from the harvested Waterloo teeth. The air in his workshop carried the pungent scent of surgical herbs and the echoes of the battlefield. As he carved and shaped the teeth, each set became a silent testament to the valor and sacrifice of the soldiers who had once borne them. The demand for dentures fashioned from Waterloo teeth grew, and Reginald's unusual trade gained both recognition and scrutiny. The people who adorned these dentures were, in essence, carrying a piece of history within their mouths, unaware of the haunting origin of their smiles. Reginald's story eventually reached the public consciousness, stirring a mix of fascination and unease. The Waterloo teeth, once symbols of bravery on the battlefield, had transformed into artifacts of a peculiar trade, bridging the gap between war-torn history and the everyday lives of those who wore them. As the years passed, the trade in Waterloo teeth faded into obscurity, but the echoes of Reginald's unusual venture lingered. The dentures crafted from the teeth of fallen soldiers became a unique and eerie reminder of the Battle of Waterloo, a silent testimony to the indomitable spirit of those who had fought and the unexpected ways in which history leaves its mark on the present.
Number 3.
In the lush landscapes of 14th-century Portugal, where the air carried the scent of blooming flowers and the melody of wandering troubadours echoed through the valleys, a tale of forbidden love and haunting devotion unfolded, a narrative that would etch itself into the pages of history. It was a time when the Kingdom of Portugal flourished under the reign of King Afonso IV. Amid the royal court, a magnetic presence emerged, captivating the heart of the king's son, Don Pedro. His gaze fell upon Inês de Castro, a woman of exceptional beauty and grace, whose origins were humbled despite the aristocratic air that surrounded her. As Don Pedro and Inés's clandestine affair blossomed, the court whispered of their forbidden love. The social chasm that separated them only fueled the flames of their passion, and the clandestine trysts continued in the shadows, hidden from the watchful eyes of the courtiers. The king, however, disapproved vehemently of his son's choice. The courtiers, wary of the burgeoning scandal, whispered warnings of the consequences of such a liaison. But love, once ignited, burns fiercely, and Don Pedro and Inés were determined to defy the societal norms that sought to extinguish their flame. As their love deepened, so did the political turmoil surrounding their union. The king, fearing the consequences of a love that defied social hierarchy, made the fateful decision to rid the kingdom of the woman who had captured his son's heart. Tragedy struck when Inés de Castro was brutally murdered, her life extinguished by those who sought to sever the ties that bound her to the royal bloodline. Don Pedro, consumed by grief and rage, rose against the machinations of his father. The once peaceful palace now echoed with the footsteps of rebellion as Don Pedro sought retribution for the unjust death of his beloved. The political landscape became a battleground, a reflection of the internal strife that tore at the heart of Portugal. In a twist that would forever mark the history of the kingdom, Don Pedro emerged victorious. Despite the price paid in bloodshed, he ascended to the throne, his heart still haunted by the memory of Inês de Castro. The courtiers, once disdainful of their union, were now forced to bow to the king who had sacrificed everything for love. As a testament to his enduring love, Don Pedro ordered that Inês de Castro's body be exhumed and placed upon the throne. Dressed in regal garments, the corpse of his beloved was crowned as queen, and the court was compelled to pay homage to the woman who had conquered the heart of their king. In death, Inês de Castro became an icon of tragic devotion. The court, now obligated to worship the queen's corpse, bore witness to a macabre spectacle that blurred the lines between love and obsession. The once silent chapel echoed with the somber hymns of subjects who bowed before the lifeless queen, the embodiment of a love that had transcended the boundaries of mortality. The tale of Don Pedro and Inês de Castro echoed through the corridors of time, becoming a haunting legend that whispered of forbidden love, political intrigue, and a kingdom forever marked by the haunting devotion of a king who made his subjects worship the corpse of his beloved.
Before we continue to number 2, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe and join this crazy journey of past and present dark stories. Thanks, and let's continue.
Number 2.
In the grimy streets of 19th century London, a city that stood at the zenith of the Industrial Revolution, a haunting tale unfolded, a story of destitution, exploitation, and the lost innocence of countless orphan children who wandered the cobblestone alleys. The city, bustling with the relentless machinery of progress, cast a long shadow over the forgotten souls left in its wake. Among them were the homeless orphans, orphaned by the unforgiving hands of poverty, disease, and neglect. Without families to claim them, these waifs roamed the labyrinthine streets, their wide eyes reflecting the harsh reality of a world that had abandoned them. As the number of destitute orphans surged, a macabre solution emerged, one that would stain the pages of history with the callousness of societal indifference. The authorities, grappling with the burden of caring for these vulnerable children, devised a sinister plan, the auctioning of orphaned souls to the highest bidder. The makeshift auction houses, dimly lit and reeking of desperation, became the stage for a sinister spectacle. Orphans, clad in tattered rags that barely shielded them from the biting cold, were paraded before a sea of potential guardians. Men and women, driven by a spectrum of motives, from genuine compassion to the darkest desires, scrutinized the frail figures before them. The bidding commenced, and the air thickened with the weight of sordid transactions. Orphans, mere pawns in a heartless game, were sold to the highest bidder. Some were fortunate enough to find homes where they were treated with a semblance of kindness, while others became victims of exploitation, forced into a life of servitude and abuse. The innocent laughter of childhood faded into the hollow echoes of factory machinery and the harsh commands of their newfound guardians. Dreams of love and security crumbled beneath the weight of a reality that demanded survival at any cost. Yet, amidst the darkness, flickers of resilience emerged. Some orphans, against all odds, forged bonds of camaraderie, finding solace in the shared struggle for survival. Their spirits, though scarred, remained unbroken, a testament to the indomitable human spirit. As the 19th century waned, societal awareness of the plight of these orphaned souls began to stir. Reformers and activists, driven by compassion and a growing sense of moral responsibility, sought to dismantle the cruel system that auctioned off the futures of vulnerable children. The tale of the auctioned orphans became a rallying cry for social change. Slowly but surely, the tides of public opinion shifted, and the shadows that shrouded the orphaned children began to lift. Legislation was enacted to protect the rights of the vulnerable, and the sordid practice of auctioning off orphaned souls faded into the annals of history. The echoes of their silent suffering, however, lingered, a reminder that the pursuit of progress should never come at the expense of humanity's most precious resource, the innocence of its children. The story of the orphan auctions served as a haunting chapter in the broader narrative of social reform, prompting a collective introspection that sought to ensure a more compassionate and just future for generations to come.
Here we are at number 1, and thanks for watching so far. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below. Thanks. Full warning. Full warning. This next video contains material that may be harmful, traumatizing, or even offensive or disturbing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Number 1.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a dark chapter unfolded in the history of German colonial expansion, one that foreshadowed the horrors of the Holocaust yet to come. The story takes us to the African continent, where the German Empire engaged in a brutal practice of genocide against the Herrero and Nama peoples in what is now Namibia. In the sweeping landscapes of German Southwest Africa, modern-day Namibia, the indigenous Herrero and Nama communities lived in harmony with the land. However, the arrival of German colonial forces brought a wave of oppression, exploitation, and a sinister desire for territorial dominance. As German settlers encroached upon traditional Herrero and Nama lands, tensions escalated. The Herrero, resisting the encroachment on their ancestral territories, staged an uprising against German colonial forces in 1904. What followed was a brutal suppression by German General Lothar von Trotha, who issued an infamous extermination order against the Herrero people. The Herrero were driven into the harsh desert regions, where they faced dehydration, starvation, and the merciless tactics of the German forces. Those who survived the forced expulsion were subjected to internment in concentration camps, where they endured inhumane conditions, forced labor, and disease. The Nama people also faced similar atrocities as they resisted German oppression. The brutality reached its zenith in the Battle of Waterloo, where the Herrero were decisively defeated, leading to the near annihilation of their population. The survivors, stripped of their dignity and humanity, faced further suffering in the form of forced labor, medical experiments, and appalling living conditions in concentration camps. The German colonial government's policies amounted to a systematic attempt to exterminate the Herrero and Nama peoples. Forced labor, malnutrition, medical experiments, and mass killings resulted in the death of tens of thousands. It was a chilling prelude to the genocidal practices that would later unfold during the Holocaust. The survivors who emerged from the horrors of German Southwest Africa carried the scars of a genocide that had largely escaped international scrutiny. The echoes of this dark chapter lingered in the collective memory of the affected communities, passed down through generations. Decades later, the recognition of this forgotten genocide became a focal point for acknowledgement and reconciliation. In 2015, the German government officially acknowledged the atrocities committed in Namibia as genocide and issued an apology, marking a belated but significant step towards acknowledging the historical injustices and working towards reconciliation with the affected communities. The tragic tale of the Herrero and Nama genocide serves as a stark reminder that the atrocities of the Holocaust did not emerge in isolation. The seeds of genocidal practices were sown in different corners of the world, and the story of German Southwest Africa foreshadowed the horrors that would later unfold on a global scale.
Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more. See y'all next time.